Item number SCP-096. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-096 is to be contained in its cell, a 5 meter by 5 meter by 5 meter airtight steel cube, at all times. Weekly checks for any cracks or holes are mandatory. There are to be absolutely no video surveillance or optical tools of any kind inside SCP-096's cell. Security personnel will use pre-installed pressure sensors and laser detectors to ensure SCP-096's presence inside the cell. Any and all photos, video, or recordings of SCP-096's likeness are strictly forbidden without approval from Dr. and 05. Description: SCP-096 is a humanoid creature measuring approximately 2.38 meters in height. Subject shows very little muscle mass, with preliminary analysis of body mass suggesting mild malnutrition. Arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of the subject's body, with an approximate length of 1.5 meters each. Skin is mostly devoid of pigmentation, with no signs of any body hair. SCP-096's jaw can open up to 4 times the norm of an average human. Other facial features remain similar to an average human, with the exception of the eyes, which are also devoid of pigmentation. It is not yet known whether SCP-096 is blind or not. It shows no signs of any higher brain functions, and is not considered to be sapient. SCP-096 is normally extremely docile, with pressure sensors inside its cell, indicating it spends most of the day pacing by the eastern wall. However, when someone views SCP-096's face, whether it be directly, via video recording, or even a photograph, it will enter a stage of considerable emotional distress. SCP-096 will cover its face with its hands and begin screaming, crying, and babbling incoherently. Approximately 1 to 2 minutes after the first viewing, SCP-096 will begin running to the person who viewed its face, who will from this point on be referred to as SCP-096-1. Documented speeds have varied from 35 km per hour to km per hour, and seems to depend on distance from SCP-096-1. At this point, no known material or method can impede SCP-096's progress. The actual position of SCP-096-1 does not seem to affect SCP-096's response. It seems to have an innate sense of SCP-096-1's location. Note: this reaction does not occur when viewing artistic depictions. See Document 096-1. Upon arriving at SCP-096-1's location, SCP-096 will proceed to kill and SCP-096-1. 100% of cases have left no traces of SCP-096-1. SCP-096 will then sit down for several minutes before regaining its composure and becoming docile once again. It will then attempt to make its way back to its natural habitat. Due to the possibility of a mass chain reaction, including breach of Foundation secrecy and large civilian loss of life, retrieval of subject should be considered alpha priority. Dr. has also petitioned for immediate termination of SCP-096. See Interview 096-1. Order is awaiting approval. Termination order has been approved, and is to be carried out by Dr. on. See Incident 096-1-A.
With her right hand pressed against the cold steel, Dr. Kowalski guided herself through the darkness. Steps forward were apprehensive shuffles. She had a sleep mask over her eyes, but she found herself wishing she had brought a gas mask as well. No one ever told her what this thing smelled like, but no one who got this close to it lived to tell. Once when Danielle Kowalski was a young child, she was afraid to go in the ocean. Her mother had warned her about stingrays, and the fear of stepping on one had put her off swimming for more than a few years. Her father, though, he believed people should be forced to face their fears. He taught her how to shuffle her feet. Then the stingrays will know you're coming, and they'll just swim away. Dr. Kowalski wondered if her father would have regretted teaching her to be brave if he had ever known the career path that bravery had opened up for her. The Foundation killed the last of that hesitant child. She could hear it now, its labored breath that seemed a mix of a whimper and a death rattle. She hoped to not touch it. Another step forward. Either Dr. Kowalski was close enough to feel the heat of its breath, or the tension was setting her blood on fire. The instant camera in her left hand was unwieldy. She hoped to not drop it because she would dare to not try to pick it back up. Snap. But no flash. If she could see the flash, then she would be in real danger. This kind of stingray doesn't swim away. The process was painfully slow. Step forward, step back, turn the camera up, turn it down. One by one, she placed each photograph it spat out into her pocket. If she could have pulled out her blinder to check the time, she would have known that 48 minutes had passed between her entering the containment chamber and expanding the last of her film. Statistically, at least one photograph would do the job, but Dr. Kowalski had no safe way to verify that. Kowalski's colleagues would have thought her insane if they knew what she was doing. Fortunately, their time was occupied. On this day, this particular site was receiving its first official visit from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. After North Korea, after what the diet in Tokyo had exposed, after the Foundation fell under the spotlight of every journalist on the planet, the world was surely about to change. Everyone, Kowalski thought, needs something for protection now, with no hope of ever having something so useful as Dr. Bright's amulet. The photographs she had taken would have to suffice. 15 months later. You've wasted an hour of my time already, Dr. Kowalski. In your former line of work, I'm sure you know what the next part of interrogation consists of, so I think it'd be in your best interest if you would stop feigning ignorance and tell me where the SCP-610 specimens were stored. You were the senior researcher on that project. You know. The uninvited man, who spoke these words inside of Dr. Kowalski's apartment, had burnt through 3 cigarettes since the interrogation had begun. Yes, her life was in danger, but she couldn't help feel most upset about the fact that the smell of his smokes was going to sink right into her furniture and carpet. Her eyes had been turned downward through most of this. It wasn't that she couldn't look a man in his eyes and lie. She was quite effective at doing that as well. She didn't think he was worthy of it. This man who introduced himself as Agent O'Brien liked to smile. He carried the demeanor of a battle-hardened general and looked the part. Short gray hair, a square jaw, and a tall build. His patience for the former Foundation researcher was waning too, though the 2 masked lackeys he brought along kept as still as statues, waiting and watching. Let me ask you, Agent O'Brien, Kowalski began, gaze still affixed on the floor. Have you been so busy trying to find me that you haven't even kept up with the news? Does the Berlin Accords against weaponized anomalies ring a bell for you, asshole? Kowalski met his eyes on the last word, her youthful face grimacing in stern defiance. O'Brien stared past her glasses, past her icy blue eyes. He stared straight through her. Hold her arm, he commanded one of his underlings. The masked man moved forward and grabbed Kowalski's wrist. O'Brien seized the middle finger of her right hand at the base and drove the thinnest knife he had under her polished fingernail. Kowalski flailed a bit, trying not to scream, but she did, and her heart raced as she knew this would get much, much worse. The Kremlin hasn't ratified it yet, so I don't think the Senate will be too keen on doing that either, O'Brien said with a bit of a chuckle. The researcher's blood trickled onto his black leather glove. He wiped it off on her cheek. Let me be clear. The Russians have everything they need to fuck with that skin disease, all around Lake Baikal. You don't think it's reasonable for the United States government to want to understand what could be used against us? Hell, I don't care what you think we're going to do with it. I want those specimens. When Kowalski had finally caught her breath and stifled her urge to scream out in pain again, she pointed to her bedroom with her unarmed hand and said, Bottom left drawer. Manila envelope. Something I kept with me since leaving the Foundation. I'm sure you'll find interesting. Go check, O'Brien commanded his men, who in less than a minute had noisily ransacked the room and returned with a manila envelope, just as the researcher promised. O'Brien grabbed the envelope for a look inside. His satisfaction faded quickly. The fuck are these? He asked as he began littering the floor with photographs. Now Kowalski would definitely keep her eyes turned up. O'Brien paused before discarding one, just long enough to have a good long look before stating, I don't think this ugly motherfucker with the fucked up jaw has anything to do what I asked you for. Angry, he put his latest cigarette on Kowalski's neck. She gasped, but the agonizing burn momentarily left her breathless. "Let me tell you a story," said O'Brien, "because I think your Foundation sure thought they were powerful hiding in the shadows. But I'd like to explain to you why you're wrong." He pulled up a chair from her kitchen table and sat down across from her. Kowalski would endure whatever tale this prick wanted to spew. She only needed to wait now. "When I was up and coming, I was a DEA agent in Colombia in the late 80s. Part of the team hunting down Pablo Escobar. I had a narco in study. And this little shit was every bit uncooperative as you are now." He kept repeating, "Do you know who you're fucking with?" He thought his cartel was hot shit. He insisted they owned all the law enforcement in Colombia. That they were the ones who ran Medellin. So I asked him, "If you run this city, why do you bury your money? Why do you have to smuggle your coke? Surely," I said, "if you're in charge, you'd peddle your coke out in the open. You wouldn't tuck your guns." I pulled out mine and shot him in his kneecap. "That's power. I don't hide my gun. It's right here for you to see," I said as he bled all over the police station floor. "Your Foundation hid in the shadows, Doctor. But let me make it abundantly clear for you. The power was always ours. Your anomalies belong to us. Your research belongs to us. Your life belongs to us. And if I'm so inclined, your ass belongs to me before I'm done with you. So one more time, I'm going to ask you what you did with the 610 specimens, because the next finger of yours I take my knife to is coming off." "Sir?" One of O'Brien's lackeys said, I think there's something outside." Kowalski shut her eyes as soon as she saw a long arm with corpse-like skin phase through the wall as if it weren't even there. The gunshots rang out in quick succession. The smell of gunpowder filled her nostrils as her ears rang and she stared into darkness. She heard screams. She heard bones snapping. She even heard a sickening slurping sound she wouldn't want to see the source of, even if it would kill her. After a few minutes of pandemonium, agony, it was quiet again, save from the same awful breathing she remembered. Eyes still shut tight, she felt her way to her front door. So much blood had soaked her carpet, every step she took made a sloshing sound. The smell of what just occurred would never come out either. "Run along now, 096, Kowalski told her savior. "There are worse monsters in this world than you." Hello everyone, Dark Narrator back again with another video, and thank you guys so much for watching this one. I have been wanting to do another SCP video for a very long time. I want to do them as consistently as I possibly can, but finding an SCP with a good story behind it is really hard, especially when a lot of the good backstory is like scattered in logs, and it takes a long time to, find the right stuff. But I think this one was really cool, and I've never done a story that was set in the Broken Masquerade Canon, which is one of the coolest things. Like I put in the thing before the story started, it exists in a world where the SCP Foundation has come out in the open and the Masquerade, the curtain, has opened, and everybody knows about anomalies, and the US government's trying to get in on everything, and it's a really crazy world to be in. So all of the secrets of the SCP Foundation are coming out, and there's like an ethics committee for the SCP Foundation, so they can no longer sacrifice D-Class and stuff like that. And I think it was a really cool canon to have a story featured in, and I thought this was an interesting way to that this person decided to use SCP-096 in a story rather than it just being something that kills people. It was actually used to save someone. So yeah, I want to give a huge thanks to EuclidClassDunmer. He is a very, very talented narrator, and his channel will be in the description below. Please go check that out and be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like this video if you did like it. All my links will be down below. My merch, my Patreon, all that good stuff. Phlegethon's music, as always, will be below all that, and you can go check him out anytime you feel like it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. See you later.